Tonight, here's Steve on the road.
Sadly, Steve Hartman couldn't join us today due to his daughter's dance recital. I, Rav Z, will take you on a journey to uncover the mystery behind the rise and power of Rabbinic Judaism and the Geonim amassed during the Abbasid Caliphate.
Let's travel back and take a first-hand look at where it all began. Rabbis were not always a unified and powerful force within Jewish society. In the 1st century, the Tanaim were a small, unorganized body without much authority. Only in the 3rd century did the rabbinic movement begin to gain power and influence over the Jewish community.
The year is 110 CE. We are in Tiberias, in the Holy Land of Israel. We are about to speak to one of the Tanaim in the local city. Hello, we came to the commencement of the rabbinic period to investigate the influence of Tanaim on Jewish society. What do you consider the main characteristics of the movement?
Nowadays, our movement is very decentralized. We do not live together and are honestly very spread out across the country. I would also consider us a very exclusive organization, since we rarely interact with the poor and tend to our own problems.
And what do you see as the role of the Tanaim in the future?
I hope our influence expands, but we have little interaction with other Tanaim, so I doubt our teachings will spread unless we can develop a more effective system. Under the Theodosian Code, the Romans give us little power. Therefore, I do not believe our traditions and religion will be able to prosper.
Rabbi Yochanan, would you say people tend to approach you about their own problems?
I would say that most people do not approach us for advice about their problems. The most common task we are approached with is writing divorce and marriage documents, where we serve as scribes, in addition to questions about purity laws. However, due to our non-existent relationship with the poor within our religion, we do not get questions from them often and rarely help solve problems regarding halachic laws and teachings.
Thank you, Rabbi Yochanan. We will return after this commercial break.
This fall, from the makers of The New Girl comes...
It was really crazy because at my bat mitzvah, I became a woman, but I didn't even have my period yet, or boobs, or anything. I hadn't even made out with anybody, so it was just oh. I'm sorry, what was the question?
What was your name?
Bess.
What's that short for?
Rebessa.
The Jew Girl.
Shalom!
What happens when a Jewish princess from Long Island moves in with 3 goyim who know nothing about the chosen people?
Where are you going? I made kugel.
It's Friday night. Yeah.
Exactly, it's Shabbos.
What is that, a new club?
Oy vey.
I can't stay. I have a date. I got a game.
I have a colonoscopy.
This is David.
Jewish?
Half.
Oh.
On my mom's side.
Oh! Ready, please raise their glasses of Manischewitz. You guys, even though we all just met, I feel like we're mishpachas.
Sure.
Great.
Oh, I almost forgot the prayer over the bread. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
This season, it's all about life, love, and mazel tov.
Let's eat!
Now let's go to Baghdad.
Rabbi Yochanan, what do you consider the main goals of the movement at this time?
The Moraim had many goals of the movement, such as transforming Rabbinic Judaism into a normative way of life instead of an outlet for only the wealthy. In efforts to achieve their goals, rabbis went to different communities throughout the diaspora to teach, work, and lead Jewish communities. In the time of the Tanaim, being a rabbi was rare due to the financial requirements and exclusivity, so a goal of the Moraim was to make the profession more accessible and appealing. A personal accomplishment of my own was successfully centralizing rabbis in major cities like Tiberias and Caesarea, in addition to forming the Great Yeshiva in Tiberias.
Fascinating. And where do you see the role of the Amoraim in the future?
In the future, I believe the role of the Moraim will be to unite the people under a common belief, which will allow us to grow as a nation. In previous centuries, the Jews have been confronted with a variety of challenges which have prevented us from reaching our full potential. In the past, our nation has been spread out across the empire with any form of communication, which made it nearly impossible to learn from each other and grow. But I believe using our new method of responsa literature, we'll be able to unite Jews across the continent through our teachings and traditions.
And would you say that people approach you about their personal problems?
I think most people would approach us for advice about their problems or worries because our movement has increased in size and has become more welcoming to all Jews of all economic statuses. Additionally, we've tried to encourage more people to speak to their local Moraim by building beautiful synagogues, and since the fall of the Patriarch, the Moraim have stepped up to provide leadership in each village and city as well as guidance in their daily lives, since the title has become more of a profession than a symbol of wealth and status.
And Yochanan, would you say that the role of the rabbi has evolved since the time of the Tanaim?
The role of rabbis has always been to teach the people our traditions so we can pass them down to future generations. But since the time of the Tanaim, the job has definitely evolved. Now rabbis are not only responsible for teaching traditions, but are in charge for ruling over court cases in the Jewish Supreme Court, establishing law, and leading their communities. The Abbasid Caliphate allowed the Moraim to transform from only religious leaders to the leaders of the entire community.
And would you consider yourself an authoritative leader and the Amoraim an authoritative movement?
Yeah, I would consider myself an authoritative leader and the Amoraim a powerful movement, since the Jewish community relies on us to answer their questions about their day-to-day lives, in addition to judging their court cases and establishing their law.
Now let's watch a crash course on how the Islamic Empire began and affected Jews within its empire.
In the 7th century, the Islamic Empire would conquer the Romans and gain control of the Middle East. Muhammad's death in 632 would commence the first caliphal dynasty, the Umayyad Caliphate. Its capital resided in Damascus, Syria, and the empire's reign would end in 750 CE when they are conquered by the Abbasid. The Abbasid Caliphate marked a turning point in the emergence of rabbis as leaders of world Jewry. It further strengthened the authority of the Gaonim and allowed them to exert their influence on Jewish life. The legal status of the Jews under the Islamic Caliphates was drastically different than their status in the Roman Empire. Under the Pact of Umar, Jews were considered a protected minority. The legal document promised all monotheistic religions, referred to as dhimmi, safety in return for the obedience and taxes called jizya. The rabbi's authority was able to expand during this era due to the autonomy granted to the Jews and relatively simple restrictions. During this time, the formal title of the heads of the rabbinic academies in the cities of Babylon was the Gaonim. The Gaonim would serve as teachers, judges, and interpreters of Jewish law. They helped spread rabbinic Judaism and the Babylonian Talmud by developing commentaries and interpretations about the law that they could also enforce within the court system. Additionally, they developed responsa literature, which were letters in which one party would consult another on a halachic matter. Responsa literature allowed Jews from across Babylonia and throughout the world to ask questions about the Talmud and halachic law that their home courts could not answer. They would send their question, which would eventually be received by representatives of the Babylonian yeshivot, who would determine a possible answer and return the letter. Another significant tradition begun by the rabbis during this time was the study of Torah, which took place during the months of Elul and Adar. This gathering was known as the month of Kala and helped spread the authority of the Babylonian Talmud, Rabbinic Judaism, and the Gaonim of Babylonia by allowing rabbis from across the country to learn from each other's teachings and cultures.
Let's go speak to an Islamic guard.
The end of the Umayyad Caliphate led to significant changes within the government. How would you describe the former method of governing the law?
The Umayyad Caliphate allowed Jews and other monotheistic religions to observe their religion. However, they were required to pay jizya, a yearly tax. The government was very understanding of people's needs and were not oppressive.
What was the chain of command within your cities?
The caliph was the ruler of the entire empire. However, in cities like Baghdad, the Imam, an entrusted man of integrity, was made the treasurer. He would choose trusted officials who would then appoint assistants from each religion. These assistants would collect taxes from each of the dhimmi, the monotheistic religions, according to the classifications described in the Pact of Umar.
And what would you say was the chain of command within your village?
Similar to the cities, the caliph was the head of the empire. However, the Imam, the head of the mosque, gave his power to the Kharaj. In villages, the Kharaj was in charge. The Kharaj would appoint a headman from each village who would collect the taxes from the dhimmi, monotheistic religions. Then the headman elects village leaders to represent each religion and collect religious taxes. Now let's go speak to a rabbinic scholar.
Why would you say the Tanaim were not a movement?
The Tanaim did not qualify as a movement for a couple of reasons. They did not make any significant change within their communities. They were very exclusive and did not try to include or recruit people. They lacked a leader or a central institution. And lastly, they did not have any followers due to the animosity that existed between them and the poor.
How did the Amoraim help spread and expand Rabbinic Judaism?
The Amoraim were slightly larger in numbers to begin with, which helped to expand Rabbinic Judaism. They also related and adjusted to the laws of the Torah to fit better with the time period, making it easier for many people to keep their traditions. The rabbis also had a strong connection to the patriarchs, who would allow them to keep their practices, and the rabbis also were the ones who compiled the Mishnah together. Their overall goal was to unite the Jewish people, so expanding the religion was a step to that.
How would you say the rabbis became the dominant leaders in Jewish society, and how did Rabbinic Judaism evolve?
Ever since Amoraim took the roles of the Tanaim, the Jewish community started respecting the teachings of the Amoraim. During this time, Jews in the villages and cities were no longer afraid to approach the Amoraim with their questions of civil law, Shabbat, purity, and more, making the power of the Amoraim greater than before and the prestige more prominent. Even the Jewish courts, though less dominant with the Roman courts, had prestige because the Romans recognized their power. Though this power is lesser compared to the Romans, the rabbis' leadership in Jewish society grew dramatically.
That is the CBS Evening News. Scott's back next week. It's been an honor to sit in his chair. I'm Charlie Rose. I'll see you Monday on CBS This Morning.